Welcome, and thank you for joining Zonta International and the International Advocacy Committee for this special webinar on gender-based violence and cyberbullying. We hope this will be an interactive session and invite you to join the conversation. We will have dedicated time for questions at the end of today's session. However, please feel free to submit your questions at any time using the Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom screen. It is now my pleasure to introduce Zonta International President Sharon Langenbeck. Sharon, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Megan, and welcome again to all of you. It is wonderful to see so many people here with us today. Over the last 18 months, we have all relied on the internet more than ever for work, for school, and to stay connected with our family and friends. Sadly, our increased use of the internet has also put women and girls at increased risk of online violence. As Zontans, we envision and work toward a world where no woman or girl lives in fear of violence. When we speak of gender-based violence, we must also therefore address online violence. It can take many forms, but it is just as destructive as violence experienced offline. I want to thank the International Advocacy Committee and our panelists today for bringing attention to the issue of gender-based violence and cyberbullying. And thank you for your presence here today and for joining Zonta to learn more so we can all work together to protect women and girls online. I will now turn it over to Yana to begin today's conversation.
Thank you, President Sharon. Dear Zontians and guests, my name is Yana Gencheva. I'm from Zonta Club of Burgas in Bulgaria, Area 5, District 30. It will be my pleasure to be your moderator today in the third advocacy webinar on gender-based violence and cyberbullying. Can we protect ourselves on the web? And not only, can we protect others? What are the differences between the violence offline and online? To answer those and many more questions and to share their experience and expertise and knowledge with us, we have invited three great speakers, our panelists today. Let me introduce them to you. Maria Stefanova. Maria Stefanova is a journalist and media expert owner at Vi Consulting Ltd, How to Mediate PR and Communication Agency. She is a Zontian 26 years now, serving at club, district, and international levels. Being a journalist, Maria is curious about many social projects and is dedicated to the cause of human rights and elimination of violence. She has a strong drive to understand, help, and make difference in various national and international projects like trafficking in women in Bulgaria, working with the International Organization for Migration, and Capacity 21 project for sustainable development of United Nations Development Program. As a journalist, she has been traveling to Syria and the Balkans, doing series of reports on human rights and religious tolerance. Our second panelist is the Police Colonel Maria Sheila Portento. Maria Sheila Portento, a 25-year member of the Philippine National Police, is the chief of the Anti-Trafficking in Persons Division of the Philippine National Police Women and Children Protection Center. In her 3-year stint, she has led 92 operations, which resulted in the rescue of 264 victims and arrest of 66 suspects. Police Colonel Portento has initiated projects like Child-Friendly Room, a space where child victims will be processed and presents an environment that eases the trauma after being rescued and separated from their families. Likewise, she initiated a donation drive for online sexual exploitation of children victims, where donated items are turned over to the shelter. Ivan Terziev Ivan Terziev is a student in a school for art and drama in Burgas, Bulgaria. He and his family help people in need whenever possible. He loves dogs and helping stray animals and hopes to one day become a professional actor. As most teens, he spent a lot of time online, playing games, talking with friends, and dealing with cryptocurrencies. The time he spent online made him deal with a lot of problems related to cyberbullying and cybersecurity. He now knows how to protect himself online and wants to share his knowledge with others. Now we are going to our first speaker, Maria Stefanova. Maria, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Yana, and thank you all for visiting this gender-based violence and cyberbullying mini-series, webinar. I'm very happy to see you all here and to share my opinion on these very important issues. Could you show, please, my second slide? First, I would like to introduce to you myself and my credo as a woman, as a journalist, and as a human being. I truly believe that three very important things should be stand for: the freedom of expression. I truly believe also that women's rights are human rights, and I always say no to all forms of violence. And I wanted to tell you that today, the 10th of November, is a very special day in my country, because this is a new democracy day in Bulgaria. In 1989, when we had a very big change of the political system here. So today it's a real honor and a privilege for me to tell you my story as a journalist, as a Zontian, and as a simple and humble human being. Could you please show my next slide? Well, as you know, I come from the Balkans, from the Balkan Peninsula, and this is situated in the Central Europe. As a journalist, I have been always traveling around the world. For the last 30 years, I visited so many countries, and it's very good for my profession and also for me as a human being, because I got to know different people, different nationalities, different habits. But on the Balkan Peninsula, our temper is very hot and our habits are also hot. And according to our history on the Balkans, we have been always struggling for something. All the countries that are situated here, this is Serbia, or all the countries from ex-Yugoslavia, this is Bulgaria, Macedonia, and Romania also is part of the Balkan Peninsula. And we have relatively the same temper. In the last 30 years on the Balkans, in Central and Eastern Europe, we had a lot of violence, we had a lot of wars and conflicts, and we had a new division of the whole Europe. Very many new countries emerged from the separation of ex-Yugoslavia. So this is another reason that the violence came with a very we could feel it. We could feel it that the violence is rising, is increasing in all forms that were known to the humanity. And then, as a journalist, I continued to travel. And then I was supposed to make a series of reports from Syria, because Syria at that time, 30 years ago, was a quiet place and a very, very rich history there, because 5 different religious denominations lived very peacefully in Damascus. And in the suburbs of Damascus, it is called Maalula and Sednaya, 2 small villages, 2 small settlements, They are called the homeland of Jesus. So that's why I went there. And first, I was supposed, according to the rules in the country, to be accredited with the Minister of Information and Culture. And then I got the permission to make interviews and to prepare my reports for the National Library, for the National Radio of Bulgaria. That's how I got to the Central Mosque. Could you please show my next slide, which is entitled Tears and Prayers. I went to the mosque, which is called Al-Zahra Mosque in Damascus in 1995, as I told you. And this is a school where all the pupils, they study Quran, they study religion. And I suddenly met a young girl, 16-year-old girl from Bosnia. Bosnia at that time was in a war situation. All the conflicts on the Balkans were going on. And that girl told me an amazing story. She said, could you please help me? Because she heard my accent speaking English in Syria. And she thought that that might be from her region. And she was quite right, because even though she was speaking Bosnian, Serbian Bosnian, I could understand her. And then she told me her story. It was amazing. And every time when it happens to me to tell the story of this young girl whom I don't know what has happened in her life, I feel very, very sad. And she told me that her mother was killed in the war, and they were left with her father, her and her brother. And then the father decided to send them both into this school at Al-Zahra Mosque in Damascus. Since then, she has been living and studying in the school already for 2 years. She was not supposed to meet her brother. She was not supposed to show her face. She was absolutely not free to do anything that she wanted to do. So this is an example of how human rights, in this case, the women's rights or young girls' rights, are violated. Violated because this young girl, she had big plans. She was a wonderful artist, and she was dreaming of becoming a very well-known artist around the globe. But I'm not sure that she succeeded. So what did the journalist do at that time? I spoke with the director of the school. I told her, and she simply answered, these are our rules here. So that was it. Finally, when I got back home, and when I did my series on religious tolerance and on human rights violation in that region, it happened to me to speak with some representatives of the embassy of Syria, but I don't believe that I helped very much in this case. So that's why I decided that I will become a warrior, a defender of the human rights. So here I am in Zonta for more than 26 years, and of course struggling against this, because if you don't have your freedom of expression, if you don't believe that women's rights are human rights, probably you won't succeed in all the activities that you have. Would you please show my next slide? So my conclusion about the conflicts, the women in conflicts and in peace building, well, women in conflicts, they behave, they are very strong. We are very strong. And we try to find all possible means to help not only ourselves, because during wars and during conflicts, usually women are raped, they are abused, they are humiliated, they are trafficked, and also the domestic violence is very strong during these war conflicts. So this was the situation, let's say 30 years ago, and then step by step it started to improve. But what has been changed since those times, for 30 years? It happened to me that I worked as a manager for a very big international project of the International Organization for Migration. It was called Trafficking in Women in Bulgaria. It was quite an experience because now, at that time, I met, it was in year 2000 and 2001, I met real victims of trafficking, real victims that had no human rights at all. It was many times that we were crossing borders with my team, and we have been meeting those victims who somehow succeeded to make a contact with us because we have been helping the victims of trafficking. We brought them back to Bulgaria or to the country of their origin. For example, Albania was on our list, and Romania too, and the neighbor countries like Macedonia. But you know, a very high percentage of those women were trafficked back. So slowly, step by step, as I said in a few minutes ago, the situation was improving, and it was a very long trip that I had as a journalist, as a woman, as a defender of human rights. And my conclusion is that we should be absolutely aware of everything that is happening to us, to our families, to our friends, and always try to help. Could you please show my next slide, which is entitled The New Slavery? What is the new slavery? To my understanding, it is the online yoke. It is against slavery. It is the COVID restrictions that brings us to again, not in the full potential to exercise our freedom, our freedoms. And also the digitalization and the COVID-19 pandemic is very strongly reflecting on our rights. Remember, I believe in all your countries that you're witnessing now so many discussions about the new vaccinations, about the new treatment, medical treatment of COVID-19, and where are the the rights of all human beings, all citizens of different countries all over the world, when some of the countries, of course, impose vaccination on the population. So this is again a matter of human rights, defending the human rights, defending the freedoms of us. So what can we do? It is a very often question that everyone hears or thinks about it. Could you please show the next slide? It will be about Mary Poppins, something much more interesting, I believe, and I will speak about this slide with a smile because I believe since I was a young girl, a child practically, I believe that I could fly. I could fly in my dreams. So when I was growing up, I understood that I was quite right, and I was a wise child because I believed in all those things. So now I'm here. There are three very important rules in my life. This is also part of my credo as I started in the beginning, as a journalist, as a woman, as a simple and humble human being. It is very important that I am and I stand for my rights. It is very important that I do create everything possible that I can do with my hands, with my mind, and I stand for this. And I help my community, my sister Zontians, I help all people that are in need. And I have everything that I have I think it is very important for the others that I can share. I have my experience, I have my thoughts, I have my loves and my desires, I have my wishes, and I can share everything with the others. And this is very important. And here I put it sound file. I'm not sure that you can put it on. Could you try please to do it? And I would like to ask
Here in
everyone.
that village, we still speak the language of Jesus, the Aramaic language. I'm from here and I speak the Aramaic language very well. I want to pray to you the Lord Prayer in the Aramaic language, like Jesus has learned to his apostles. أبونا احتي بشمو يتكتش اشمخ يثيلي ملكخ تشيثكان إيروتشخ إخ بشمو تشيب على رعا أبيح لحمة أخو اليوم وغفر لها احتي يوثح إخ من غفر ليلتي مختي نعمينح ولو فش تخللنا حب شغري بيوثا بس نجينا حمشيذا آمين.
This young lady I met in 1995 in the small village of Sednaya, and she spoke the Aramaic language, which we believe that this is the language of Jesus. And I just wanted to share this prayer because you cannot hear it anywhere in the world in Aramaic language. And this is a strong belief. And I also think that this young lady that spoke Aramaic language, she also had her wishes, her beliefs, and I hope that she is well, and I hope that we could understand to each other if we listen carefully to us, and we can overcome all the problems. Also, the biggest problem that brought us here today, this is the violence, and this is the new slavery due to COVID. Please show my last and my final slide. And just to say very much thank you to all of you, and try to imagine a world with no gender-based violence, because still on the picture you can see that men to the left should go to the left, and you women should go to the right. But remember that women are always right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maria, for your expertise and for all the thoughts you shared with us. Now the floor goes to Shiva. Shiva, the floor is yours.
Okay, good evening, good day to everyone. As Maria's mentioned a while ago, during the pandemic, everyone was moved online. And the Philippines is not different from everyone else, where we were caught off guard with the pandemic. And so next slide, please. At the onset of the pandemic, we received a report from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children that there was a 264 increase of cyber tip reports that were received. Of course, this was a very big challenge for us in order to monitor the threats, especially to our children. And by the way, my shopkeepers is more focused on the online sexual exploitation of children. So in my presentation, it's more focused on the children. Next, please. I'd like to take you to a quick view of the landscape of the internet, wherein there are three parts, namely the World Wide Web, which is what we consider the on top or the tip of the iceberg. It is where all those searchable engines like Google, Yahoo, Facebook can readily be accessed through a click of a finger. And the next to it is a deep web, wherein it's a more secured platform. This would include bank records, journals, subscription information, which requires passwords so that one can access these files. And the deepest is what we call the dark web, which is only 6% of the internet content. But mind you, ladies and gentlemen, this is where all the criminals consider as their playground. So in here, you can actually see people requesting or buying live viewing of a child being raped, a woman being battered, arm smuggling, drugs, illicit drugs smuggling can be found here. But you know, the reason why I'm telling you this is that for our children, abusers are only searching on the tip of the iceberg. So they need not go there deep down. They can target our kids through Facebook, through Instagram, to Skype without any difficulty. Next, please. So I will be discussing to you the most common forms of online sexual exploitation of children. And these are the grooming and the luring, the self-generated or produced content material, the sexting, and the live streaming or live online child sexual abuse. Next, please. Now, for the grooming and luring, this is where a person engaged in a predatory conduct to prepare a child or a young person for sexual activity at a later time. Can include communicating and or attempting to befriend or establish a relationship or other emotional connection with the child. You see, as I speak, there's a study that around 350,000 pedophiles are lurking the internet looking for a child victim as their next target. And so in my field of work, I have seen firsthand how a groomed child can be manipulated by a predator. So when a child is being targeted, next please. Shown on screen are the phases of the grooming stage. Like it's first they would do targeting. You will wonder how from all the children or all the users of Facebook, these predators can actually target one specific child. And then if they will be able to target that, they will build a relationship. At first, they would befriend, and then they will look for the weaknesses of the child, wherein they would pose as the knight in shining armor. And then the relationship would be built. And then little by little, they would be introducing a fake loving relationship or friendship. And then after that they have established that relationship, they would reinforce control and then the victimization. Now, I would like to share with you one case that we have handled wherein the FBI sought our help to locate a 16-year-old girl here in the Philippines because a convicted sex offender in the US, convicted for 2 counts of sexually offending minors. He was prohibited from contacting any minor, but then when a further conduct of investigation was done, it revealed that he was contacting a child from here. And so the FBI agent asked us and we were able to locate, and I was really so surprised on how this child was manipulated, was made to believe that it is actually normal for a 16-year-old girl to have a relationship with a 64-year-old man. And then she was asked to send videos and pictures of sexual content because she was made to believe that it was a normal for 2 persons who has a lover relationship. And then when I asked the girl, what did he give you in exchange for those images? And it was really heartbreaking that all the 1.5 years that they've been that she was asked to send those videos, the man actually sent a teddy bear as big as this and a bar of chocolate. It is really very very awakening for us to speak about this, to be part of our advocacy, because if the child was not located, she will be continually abused. Next, just to lighten up the mood, so this is how to illustrate grooming. A young girl is expecting that to whom she's talking is actually someone who looks like a Justin Bieber, but in reality, it's this guy. By the way, this guy, I presented his image because he's a convicted felon for sexually offending minors. And so it is very timely for this advocacy, so that for those of you who are with us tonight, please always be on guard to communicate with your children and let them be made aware of the existence of groomers around the internet. Next. Now, the next type of abuse is what we call the self-generated or produced sexual content or material. So this is when a young person creates or makes naked or semi-naked images or videos depicting sexual activity. Now, we have seen this in Facebook, TikTok, it's almost everywhere. And the tendency is that the children are not aware that these materials can be used against them, can be used as to blackmail them, for them to make more images and send these images to the perpetrators. And then these are commonly created within their homes. And then these may be shared consensually at first, then forwarded onto or obtained maliciously by offenders who will coerce or groom a child online. We also have a case that was referred to as that wherein 9-year-old girls were actually, they were friends, and then they have this like how would you call that, challenge to contribute one image depicting of sexual content, and then it was collected through a Google Drive, but unfortunately that Google Drive was hacked. And so these children were, good thing that these children were made aware, because one of them were already been subjected to sextortion, I should say, and then reported it at once to her parent, who in turn approached us. So it is very alarming, because according to the Internet Watch Foundation, almost 44% of these images reported to them in 2020 were self-generated. So it would be very important that we educate our children that an image cannot be circulated online, especially nude pictures or somewhat like sexually explicit images, if no child will take a picture of himself or herself. Next, please. So it is prevalent in young girls aged 11 to 13. So these are the teens. And the amount of self-generated abuse material obtained via online grooming or coercion has risen to 117% from 2020 to 2021. So you can just imagine the volume of materials that has already been circulated online. A new study revealed that child sex offenders are manipulating and tricking children online to involve siblings and or friends in this form of self-generated child sex abuse imagery. So last month, we were able to encounter a case like this, wherein the 13-year-old girl thought that she was actually communicating with a young boy who was eventually discovered to be an adult. And then she shared a few images, and those images were used against her, threatened her that if she will not produce more and will not include her sibling in those images, then that that man would actually send or share those images to all her contacts on FB. Next, please. So sexting. So sexting is sending sexual explicit images or videos between electronic devices such as smartphones, tablets, or computers, which can include sending and receiving naked or semi-naked pictures or videos of yourself or others, and sending text messages with sexual content. And then victims of sexting may experience serious psychological and physical and mental harm. You can just imagine a 10-year-old receiving images, receiving messages, which is sexual in content. It is really disturbing, especially if that child does not have an open communication with the parents or the teachers. So it is very hard for him to process this information or these images. Indeed, it will cause trauma to the child. Next, please. And then this is one problem that we are facing now in the Philippines. It is the online sexual exploitation of children. This is the production for the purpose of online publication or transmission of visual depiction, photos, videos, live streaming of the sexual abuse or exploitation of a minor for a third party who is not in the physical presence of the victim in exchange for compensation. Now, this is where we are very active because indeed the Philippines has been known as a hotspot for online sexual exploitation. In this crime fight, there are actually three actors. One is the perpetrator or the customer, who usually is a foreigner. And then second is the facilitator or the pimp. And then the third is the child victim. So OSEC, what we call the way we refer to this crime, has actually been considered as prevalent in the Philippines because of some factors which we see as contributors. Number one, of course, we are very fluent in English, so the foreigners does not find it hard to communicate even with children. And then the accessibility of the internet, the accessibility of the payment channels, and then sadly, the facilitators or the one engaging in these activities, the adults, has a trusting relationship with the child. So it is very easy for them to entice the child to perform sexual activities online while somebody is watching or recording. And then in most of the cases that we've handled, I would ask the facilitator, how do you convince a child to do these things? And then she would tell me that she would tell the child that if you're not going to do this, we don't have food to eat, or after you perform, I'll buy you a Barbie doll. And the most I think the most convincing part is that they are made to believe that there's no physical harm because there's no physical contact. But you see, the trauma inflicted to the child is somewhat deeper, considering that the one abusing her is actually a relative, and worse, a mom, her mom. So we have been very aggressive in addressing this problem. Next, please. So we have listed a long effects of OSEC to the children, which may include psychological, emotional, physical, social stigma and labeling, increased vulnerability for further abuse and exploitation. I'd like to emphasize on this because how can a child, when she grows up, trust anyone when her mother, the first person who should have been her protection, is the one who's abusing her? And then, of course, since the child has been exposed to sexual activities early on, then early sexualization is a big problem. So whenever we rescue children, we take them to the shelters, and then counseling and the social workers will be at hand to give them psychosocial intervention. And then, of course, missed education opportunity, then difficulties in forming secure and lasting relationships. Next, please. Increased mental health issues, increased health needs, barriers to relationship forming because of trust issues, increased teen pregnancies, increased pathways to trafficking and commercial sexual exploitation. We've experienced, with a team failed to rescue sisters of 14 and 16 years of age. 2 years after, they were already our target because they have already been facilitators. So they have evolved from victims to facilitators because they were not rescued and they were not given psychosocial intervention. Next, increase children in conflict with the law. Next, please. So what can you do if ever you know for a person to be a victim of this abuse? Next, please. What goes online stays online, not true, very false. That's why we are advocating that those who are aware of an ongoing abuse or who has been abused, we empower them to seek help, because the images that are circulating online can be treated or can be taken down only by people with technical expertise or the technical know-how. So it is very important that we empower the child that if in case she has been a victim of this online sexual exploitation, then she needs to come out to seek help. Next, please. So we need to take back control, encourage the child to speak without being judged. The parents, we should be the first one to reach out, because we will notice actually the change in character or the change in attitude of our children. Are they being secretive? Are they being always silent? Not the normal things that she's been doing has been stopped, and then she's been getting low grades in school, and then poor relationships. That's, I think, it is very crucial that we reach out to our children and then speak to them, and then support the child by helping them understand what's happened to them. And firstly, we need to reinforce to them that they are not the first victim of this abuse. They are not an isolated case. This has been happening everywhere. Henceforth, a lot of professional help can be reached. So they just need to speak out. They just need to stand and let us also give them the support that they need, so that they will be empowered to face this crisis. And then, of course, report to authorities so that an investigation can be done, taking down of the images can be done, cases can be done. So next, please. So I also would like to share with you what the Philippine government has been doing to address these issues during the pandemic. We have established helplines through social media or hotlines, so that anybody who needs support, they can actually contact these helplines. And then we also do close coordination with law enforcement agencies, not only with the local, but we have strengthened our partnership with the foreign law enforcement agencies like the FBI, Australian Federal Police, the UK NCA, wherein we have been successful in identifying and locating children. And for their part, they were also successful in arresting the predators from their side. And we have successful cases of conviction already. And then issuance and dissemination of public advisory, and then capacity building to people like us, the frontliners. Next, please. And so with this, we have established a Facebook page. We call that Aling Police or Lady Cop. We share on a weekly basis social media cards to inform the public on how to protect themselves, on how to report abuses. So this has been generating wide support from our netizens. Next, please. So that's our hotline. And the next, please. So thank you. Hopefully I was able to share somewhat like what we've experienced here in the Philippines in protecting our children online. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shiva, for sharing your experience in all forms of cyber violence and for your advices as well for the recommendation on solutions that you have presented to us. Children and adolescents are our future, and we have to know how to protect them, perhaps with sharing presentation like yours. Dear guests and Zontians, do you know what is the most common attack performed by cyber criminals in 220? I think the answer of this question will be given, and much more, of course, will be given to us from Ivan. Ivan, the floor is yours.
Thank you, thank you. Today, we're going to talk about what is phishing, how it works, and how to protect ourselves from it. Next slide, please. Thank you. So, what is phishing? Phishing is a type of social engineering attack often used to steal user data, including login credentials and credit card numbers. It occurs when an attacker masquerading as a trusted enemy dupes a victim into opening an email, instant message, or a text message. Next slide, please. So, how it works? A hacker sends you an email or an insecure link or even a message. That's the three things that we're going to talk today, but there are even more. But these are the more important and they're the more famous ones. Next one, please. Next slide. So that's what a phishing email looks like. So it looks very real. The mission of the phisher is to take your attention on the details. Okay, so his mission is to take your attention to the image that says trusted bank. So you don't actually care about it, the words, you only just care to secure your account. Okay, but here's the tricky part. He says that if this information is not correct, someone unknown might have access to your account. As a safety measure, please visit our website via the link below to verify your personal information. So that's actually the phish one. The phish one is HTTP. You see the link. HTTP stands about hypertext protocol. Okay, that's what every site have. And the only secure one is HTTPS, which stands behind the hypertext protocol secure. So here's the tricky part. You see trusted bank, it looks real, but it's not. Just verify info, and that's actually what they want to do. They want you to click on that link and you just give, technically you give your credential to your attacker. Next one, please. So what an insecure link? So Instagram, the original link is Instagram. Facebook, the original link is it's Facebook. TikTok, but the original one is TikTok. Messenger with 3 S's, and Discord, which the original one is Discord. So please, next one. So an insecure message can look like this. Hello, we'll take as an example your brother. Okay, if you have a brother. Hello, your brother is in the hospital. Please send money to this PayPal because the surgery is urgently needed. Or anyone can be in the hospital. So, or the next one, we've got some images, and if you don't send money to this PayPal, you'll regret it. So I will show you in the next slides how to defend from this. This is just the examples from this kind of attack. So how to protect from suspicious sites. So first of all, you open VirusTotal, which is virtually a great tool, because in a site you can literally scan anything. You can scan a file, you can scan a URL or a link, anything you can scan actually. So if you find a suspicious file or a suspicious link, anything, you can just open VirusTotal and scan it from there, and they'll tell you what you have in this link, like a viruses. If they don't show anything, then it's safe and you're free to go on that site. So check the link very carefully for a different letter. So that's another mission of the phisher. He changes, or she, I don't know. He changes the one alphabet of the link, so it can look like the original, but it's not, and it will make you to click it because you think that it's the original one. So the third one, which is one of the most important thing in the phishing, you can check for certificate which is done from there. In that image, I showed you where you can find a certificate for every site. So every site that is certificate by Google, it will show every certificate that is listed on that site. So if a site don't have a certificate, it will show you that you don't have to. And if they don't have a certificate, then that link is dangerous and please don't touch it. So secure communication is granted by HTTPS. That's what I talked. In every site, you have a protocol that makes the site reach to you. So the only secure one is the HTTPS, as you know. Please, next one. How to protect yourself from the messages. If you have, we'll take as an example that link that your brother was in the hospital. I hope no. Okay. And first of all, you have to call your brother. That's a necessary one for me, because if you have your brother and if he tells you that he's okay, then you know that it's a scam. Okay. And if it is, you just copy the message, or you just picture it with your phone or screenshot it, save it somewhere, and just leave it to the police department, and they'll take it from there. So if they left some kind of contacts, every fisher has to left a contact. It's like a crypto wallet or PayPal or bank address or credit card, which you have to give the money. You just save that. That's one of the most important things in that phishing message, because that will take you to the attacker direct. Next one, please. So an email, phishing email can look like this. So the tricky one, we'll see, I'll take it as example, Netflix. Please update your payment details. Hi, dear, blah, blah, blah. So here, the important is from who you get this email. They're using copy to the original. It's very close, but they changed the letter, so you think it's an original. And to protect yourself from it, even if you have that kind of message, you want to not click that tricky red one to update your account. Okay, you can update your account from the original site, not from the email, which is the best one, the best thing you can do in that kind of situation. You just update your credentials from the website, not from the email, because if you click that red button, it will redirect you to another site, which is phishing, and it will ask you to apply your credentials, and they'll take it and they'll steal your account then. So please, next slide. And that's kind of it. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Wow. The youngster says, you know, they are, oh, hurry up, always hurry up. And it should be so. Of course, thank you, Ivan. Thank you very much for giving us the practical info and the solutions, how to keep not only our correspondence secure, but also how to safely browse through internet, because what we are all do recently, we are all working through internet, chatting, doing our social relationships. Now, thank you to all the three panelists. Now is the time for our questions and answer session. We already have 2 questions, and the first one is 200 of our high school students walked out of class and protested sexual violence in the school. Is this common? I think that the question is the sexual violence common in the school, right? So who would like to answer? Shiva?
Well, you were right in asking which one is common, sexual
Well, I
abuse
think the
or
question
the
is,
one walking out.
is the sexual violence in the school common?
It should not be common. That's it, because it's a violation of a child's rights. So, well, I think something that I can say is that I salute those students for walking out, because it's one act of standing up for their rights. Their rights have been violated, And I believe, just like in the Philippines, although there might be reports of abuses in school, but there should be a mechanism wherein a child can actually report an abuse. Just like cyberbullying, there has to be mechanism in place, and it should be taught to to the kids that once they feel that they're violated, they need to speak out. They need to reach out, and there's this person or an office or a unit in the school which can actually protect and answer these issues. Henceforth, for those who are again listening to us right now, encourage and empower our kids to speak out. Let's teach them the no zone, no touch, that whenever somebody touches them from those no touch zones, speak out, cry for help, report. Thank you.
Shiva. The second question. Hello, I'm Nilufar Rahman, president of Zonta Group of Dhaka Second, Bangladesh. Here is my question. I am a victim of cyberbullying and harassment by a woman who I've never met. She has been threatening me time and again, which I was ignoring for more than 20 months. I'm so offended, I felt enough is enough, and I've taken the matter to the authority. But in Bangladesh, every process is very slow and confusing because rich and powerful rules the country very strongly. What is your suggestion to me in this matter? Do we have a panelist who can give some practical solutions to this matter? Ivan?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. For me, the first thing you want to do is to contact with the Facebook support or the app that you're talking to with that woman, because that's one of the best thing you can do in that kind of situation, because Facebook will take it from there. And I think, I might be wrong there, they will contact them from the police department. For me, that's the best one you can do. If you haven't any info from her, I think that you should contact the police department. Even if the process is slow, it's sure that they will cover. Or if you can, just don't talk to her if you can, but if you can't, I don't really know.
Thank you, Ivan, for your honesty. Shiva? Yeah.
I really would want to help, but the only help I can give perhaps is that I'll give you my email address and we'll see from there how I can also tap our partners to help you. It's just so sad that your authorities can't actually protect or help you on that problem, because they are there to protect the citizens, much more to a lady being harassed. And I can just imagine for 20 months you have been put to so much stress, especially that you don't know your enemy. So, mom, I'll type my email. If you can just drop me a message so that I'll see what I can do to help you.
Thank you, Shiva.
Yana,
And
I was thinking I can add one sentence. Maybe there in the country is a non-governmental organization that could help also. Maybe she knows better what is the situation there, because usually those NGOs, they work together very close with the police and with the other authorities. So she might do so.
thank you, Maria. And the last one, is it considered human trafficking if the trafficked person consents and is aware?
I can answer that.
Shiva? Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So it is already a taboo for us to use consent. How do you go? Wait, give me a second. Oh my gosh, I cannot find the word. But to this effect, a traffic victim need not give consent to be considered a victim. Yeah, I know the name, the word. We are. It is already a taboo to use. Oh my gosh, and I forgot it again. Willing victim. That's it. Sorry, willing victim. That's already a taboo for us. Trafficking champions to use that, because number one, even if the victim is aware or gives consent, for as long as her vulnerability has been exploited, then she will be considered a victim. She may be aware that she is onto trafficking, but mere use of her vulnerability makes her or qualify her to be called a trafficking victim. Now, of course, it differs, but in the Palermo Protocol, um, it is so embedded in that protocol. And then even for in the Philippines, if I may give example, we have been rescuing Chinese nationals who have been coming over to the country and are being sexually exploited. Uh, some would say that they came here purposely to be prostitutes, to be sex workers, but still we consider them as traffic victims because nobody would want to be in a situation being exploited and being used, their vulnerabilities being used.
Thank you, Fiwa. Unfortunately, this is all the time that we have for questions today. If you have any additional questions, please email programs@zonta.org. We will share a recording of today's session on the Zonta International website. Thank you again for your participation, and thank you to our panelists. Enjoy the rest of your day.